Do you ever feel like you aren't acting like your true self, but you don't know how to get a handle on yourself? You will hear people say things like, "I don't know what possessed me to say that. I really can't believe I did that. That was so unlike me." Or, "I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me." This happens to people all the time, and there really is a rational explanation. To understand what is taking place in these seemingly unexplainable moments where it feels like you've been taken over by an alter ego, let's take a deeper look at what occurred inside of your mental and emotional bodies as a child born into a fear-based right-wrong reality. When a child is scolded, punished, criticized, shamed, blamed, or otherwise made to feel bad, the child's personality will actually fragment, developing into different aspects, or what are called sub-personalities in modern psychology. It's as if your personality cannot cope with having a bad part. So it pushes that part away from itself, from what it views as its good or acceptable self, disowning the so-called bad part in order to feel any level of comfort or self-acceptance inside. This is a normal, natural, instinctive, psychological coping mechanism that helps children survive. A child will do this unconsciously and repeatedly during their childhood years, sometimes to the point of having no parts left that feels acceptable or good. These disowned parts may also be referred to as the shadow self or the dark side of the self. Having lots of your personality stuck out in disowned subpersonalities, stuck in the dark, it creates an illusion of separation, feelings of not good enough, feelings of unworthiness, and so forth. While this protective mechanism is great for children to allow them to cope in the moment, it creates all sorts of issues for the grown child to deal with later on as an adult. Part of the awakening and healing process for us as adults is to gather up all the different parts or aspects of ourself and bring them into the light of our heart, into the compassion and the acceptance of the loving. This is the process of integration. Once a person begins to integrate the various aspects of their personality into their heart, they will feel more whole, more joyful, more content. They will start to hold themselves in higher and higher esteem until they are one with their source of loving. There really is only one underlying issue that is at the root of all problems that humans face, and that is the issue of separation from our loving source. If you look at modern psychology, each and every diagnosis involves a separation of some sort. Now, whether or not you've received any sort of diagnostic label, we all have experienced a certain level of separation from our loving source within our personality. The amount of that separation will depend upon how we related to our circumstances as a child. Understand that there is nothing wrong or bad with having placed aspects of yourself out into the dark. The act of doing so is a basic survival mechanism that the psyche uses to protect itself from the harshness of the right-wrong reality. Some people can become very triggered up by this subject. They think that if they admit to having any disowned aspects, it means that they might be viewed as having a mental health issue. If you have sensitivity about this sort of thing, I highly encourage that you just laugh at this idea. In my experience, I have never met a human being who has not had some degree of personality separation. So you could say that until we go through the integration process, we could all be viewed as head cases. Do you have any alter egos that you are aware of? This could be a mood that you sometimes get into, an attitude or emotion, or a particular way of thinking, speaking, or acting in certain circumstances that doesn't feel like your most natural, authentic self. Be willing to look deeply at yourself. Thankfully, most mental level dis-ease, which simply means lack of ease or lack of peace, is quite easy to heal. The first step towards integration is to acknowledge that you may have some parts of yourself that are operating unconsciously, still in the dark. Say, I am now willing to look at my own personality. Action step. Acknowledge that you may have some disowned aspects of your personality. Declaration. I am now willing to look deeply at my own personality. I'm willing to acknowledge that there may be some parts of myself that have been left out in the dark. Many blessings of joy and vibrant freedom.